Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of Management Matters. I'm Vikki Brown, owner and founder of V.A. Brown Consulting, management consulting firm aimed at targeting new managers so that they get the training that they need once they begin. Right now, I hope to have other people joining us, but right now I have Sharu Bhatia and Munira Bhatia, not related, both former managers with whom I've worked. And we're just going to open this up for discussion. And as people join us, they can join in and enlighten each other. My goal here is to get the participants talking, to connect managers, new managers with seasoned managers, so that they can learn things that they normally wouldn't ask on the job as they've been promoted. And I'll tell you why I started this. I find that a lot of times individual contributors do great jobs. And as a reward, they're promoted for that. And people will come in and say, Charu, you are the best accountant we have ever had. And as a reward, we are going to make you a manager, and you now have 4 direct reports. Go forth and manage.
Right.
I've been there. That's hard. So we want to soften the landing for all of the new managers out there, especially women, especially new managers of color, because it could be, and in my book, it should be fun and a way to grow. So we ready to do this? All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Since you both are seasoned managers, I'd like to start the discussion by asking you, when you've promoted someone into management, what's one of the first things you wish they knew right out of the gate?
I can go first.
Sure.
I think the very first thing is just the realization that they don't even know what the basic responsibilities of a manager are. That, some of the more tactical, basic things, time card approval, vacation, performance management, all of that stuff. And then I think if somebody, that's easy to teach, right? You can pick it up fairly quickly. But
those are the task-related things, right?
Yeah, the task-related things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think the next thing, of course, that just becomes the biggest thing is the taking care of your employees. It's not just getting the work done through them, but how do you almost like you're responsible for their emotional health. That might be a stretch, but how you interact with them, what you say to them, how do you give them feedback, all of that. It almost feels like a parenting responsibility. You're teaching them how to be a manager, a good manager to their subordinates. Mm-hmm. And that does not come easy. We've all had experiences. I've had some really good ones that have taught me wonderful things, including Suzanne. She's not here, but recognizing that. And then I've also had a couple of really not so good ones, right? And you learn what not to do from them. So it's learned mostly through imbibing and being around and observing, but a lot of things we could do better by actually teaching them and thinking proactively about these things. I'll stop here.
Munira, what do you think about? You've just promoted Becky. She's a new manager, and she doesn't even know what she doesn't know. What's the one thing you want her to bring to the table right after the congratulations?
I think one thing that I would value is the people skills, just, learning that we are all very different individuals and that we all have our ways of working, understanding, accepting, whether it is change or anything else, maybe it's new, assignment or something like that. It's just accepting that and recognizing we're all different, and, giving each individual time to learn and, accept that change, for example.
Yeah.
And then, just being there for your employees to ensure that you are the support system, letting them do the work, but also letting them be accountable for what they do. Because as managers, we are there as a support system. So you're not working for, you are not kind of micromanaging things, but you want them to grow in such a way that they are able to work individually, right? So just be that good support system, whether it's being a friend, a mentor, be there for your team, right?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of new managers or a lot of new supervisors go in with the mindset thinking that they're the boss, capital B, and they have to know everything and they have to be taskmasters. I've got to get this done. And the truth is, like I said, they don't know what they don't know. But I think one of the things that as their managers, we can help them with is letting them know that it's okay that they don't know anything. We don't expect them to know everything. We expect them to learn about people, to learn about being a bit of a caretaker. You have people, when we talk about supporting people, you have people that now rely on you for answers, and you're not always going to have the answers. You're going to have to go find them. And that doesn't mean you're weak, and it doesn't mean you're incompetent. It just means you are learning and you are growing in your job. And part of your job is to help them grow in their job. What are some of the questions you've gotten from those new managers, from those newly promoted folks, especially the ones moving from, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. The ones moving from individual contributor to manager, what are some of the questions you've gotten or some of the fears you've seen? And also, what about managers that have been doing this maybe in a different department, in a different company, as they come over into a new situation? What are some of the things that they may be asking from you? Anybody?
So I'll go first. Some of the things as new managers is just understanding your role first, right? Like, what am I required to do? There are lots of things involved with managing, right? There's delegation. There is, just providing the technical know-how to your team, providing feedback to your team, having those one-on-ones. So I think it's a huge learning curve when you are an individual contributor and going to manager, because you have not been doing those things. And as a manager, now you're required to sit with direct reports, just to understand, maybe have those one-on-ones and, get to know how they are doing with their job or assignments. And then trying to see, if there are ways you can be of help to ensure that, if there are any challenges, we work together to get those resolved. So I think it's just a huge shift, right, from being an individual contributor to being a manager, because you've not been doing those things in the past.
Right.
Yeah. So just understanding first what is required of you as a manager.
When you say what's required of you as a manager, well, let's finish with this question. I'm going to go back and ask you another question from the organization, the corporate viewpoint of what do we give these folks? Charu, what about you? You're muted.
I think the big piece is to recognize and be reassured. Like if you have if you're a new manager and you have a really good manager above you, and they sit down and reassure you that you're not alone and you don't have to go alone. I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing, is to recognize that. So even if you make a mistake, or you have to make a tough decision, or you don't know which direction to take, you're at a fork with something, you always have this resource of other managers. So people like yourselves who may be 2-3 years ahead of you, or
Hmm.
many years ahead of you, or just at the same level, and your own manager whom you can go to. So do not go alone, especially when it comes to difficult decisions. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. When it comes to seasoned managers, it's amazing how I liken it to like driving. You know, if you've been driving for many years, you kind of get too comfortable, and you kind of know, you
Yeah.
think you know all the rules and everything that's changing. You're like, no worries, I got it. And then those are the people who end up making some of the biggest faux pas, because they're in sort of auto mode, right? They're not really stopping and thinking. So sometimes they assume they know a lot, and they don't, or their knowledge is very prehistoric. It's like that doesn't happen anymore.
Hmm.
Or cultural insensitivities that they haven't picked on. I deal with on a daily basis. We have nursing students, and almost on a regular basis, we get concerns from students where professors refuse to learn their pronouns, or
Mm.
mix things up. And when you talk to the professors, they're like, "Well, what's the big deal?" Like,
Yeah.
they don't get it. And so, trying to bring them up to the understanding of where the world is, where how we have shifted, and what the impact is, and what the trigger could be for the individual. Eventually, they get it and they try harder, but it's things like that, like cultural norms, and especially when you're dealing with cross generational. Like, I have somebody
Yeah.
who's 80 plus years old in the organization, and then we have like these 19-year-olds who are student employees, right? So how to deal across the board, and
Yeah.
also realizing that just because I went through a hard time, I had to do this sticking and tying on a piece of paper, so you should also have to suffer, and you should also have to go through the hard time. Not
Mm.
necessary, right? That's also, I find, like in more seasoned employees, they always go back to, well, in my day I had to do this. It's like, nah,
Yeah.
your and my day has passed. Today is today. So let's.
Yeah. That's been kind of difficult for me just in my own growth as a baby boomer. And a great place for me was in marketing. I realized I'm trying to reach out to younger people, and I have no idea how to market to them. So I went and I found someone that could
Yeah,
that could talk their language. But do you
exactly.
also find that seasoned managers, especially if they're moving from one organization to another, tend to want to do things the way they did it in the old organization? So there's some growth for them in saying
Right.
you're in a new house now. You have to learn how it's done here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question I was going to ask earlier in terms of organizations is, what can the company do when they bring in managers from the outside or in new levels of positions? What can they do to make training go beyond, these are our policies, these are our processes, this is how you fill out, timesheets? What can they do to say, this is how management works?
Mm-hmm.
You have different people, and they're going to be different day in and day out, and take that knowledge outside of the organization, but to encompass just the whole world of creating respectful workplaces and treating people the way they want and need to be treated in order to be productive. I'm not sure, that's kind of a convoluted question, but I think you kind of understand what I'm trying to
Yeah.
ask.
I think that's the perennial struggle, because we all you promote somebody, the expectations change overnight. Even if it's going from a director to a VP level or a individual contributor manager level, and we're all moving so fast, and there's so much pressure. We rarely have the time to sit back, and we never really carve out time for it. We don't build in the project plan that how I'm going to onboard somebody, how I'm going to coach them, how I'm going to guide them. It's all like, you start with your one-on-ones, and one-on-ones dive straight into the task, and it just rolls, and you pray that the person works out, and you only intervene if something doesn't. That's how most organizations do it. And there are some, like when I was with PricewaterhouseCoopers, they had a very thorough program for the first year when you become a manager, because it literally the one morning at 1 a.m. you're a manager, and before that you were a senior associate, and the world comes crashing. They burn and they fail, and so to avoid that, they had like really well thought out programs throughout the year. But I don't think outside of consulting I've seen that level of forward planning.
And that's what I want to change. I want to. I want to help people go in to these positions knowing more than how the company works.
Right.
I find training academies to be, this is what we're about. When, I don't know, maybe, do I have it right? Yes, this is what we, the organization, is about. But there's some universal skills.
Right.
Regarding training and management, that if we can help these kids go in knowing some of that, it makes their process and it makes their landing softer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Well, I am hoping we're going to go for a few more minutes here. I think this is helpful. This is being recorded. So if people are joining in and watching the recording, please add comments, put them in the comment section. We will answer your questions. I'll spend some time making sure that gets done. And I just want to give you both an opportunity in the last few minutes to talk to managers out there, give them some advice on, let them know it's going to be okay and where they can go for help and what kind of stuff is out there for them. So please, Manira, go first. What advice do you have for these folks?
Well, I would just want to say there's always a first time. So this is their first time, and it's not going to always be like a fun ride. Expect some surprises, accept some, there is going to be some challenges, but go with an open mind to say it's going to be fine. And, reach out to, somebody who's mentored you or somebody you feel like you've learned something from. It's always good to get ideas from other managers as well in terms of what's been working for them. At the managers forums, if you can attend those, to just share ideas. I'm currently part of a managers academy, which I feel is really helpful because it provides the new managers with, what to expect, what to be on the lookout for, to ensure that, the whole journey is smooth, right? So we are dealing with people, and people can come in, different, with different emotions, with different ways of working, etc. But just be accepting and have an open mind to be working with them.
Yeah, great. Charu.
Yeah, very well said, Munira. All of what you said. Plus, I would say just not be in such a rush on just getting things done, but also be mindful, be intentional about carving out time every day as you plan your day every week, or like Sunday, I look at my calendar Sundays and just try and see what's coming towards you and who might need help where. And also just creating some time for your own development, for you to kind of cleanse your palate before every meeting, going like, if I'm going to meet with Angelica, it has to be about Angelica and the topic at hand, not the 5 other things that I've been handling since morning. So creating that space and really being there and listening attentively. And as you said, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Challenges will be there. If you are well-intentioned, if you have goodwill in your heart and you really care, people will see and will eventually forgive, or in the moment forgive and move on. And they'll be with you because you're transparent, you're being vulnerable, you're honest that, hey guys, this is my first time too. Just like with our kids, like I would tell my son, like, hey, you didn't come with the manual. I'm the first time mom. I'm still learning. So just being honest about it makes you very human and approachable. And then people can roll with the punches, right? They can go up and down with you when things don't go well. And always make time for fun. That's my number one. Fun is healing. It's imperative. It helps to get over stuff. It helps us get over tough times. It builds bonds. So just go out and have fun with your folks. It's incredible how that changes the dynamics. So
great. Yeah. And I would say, one of the sayings that we have in an organization I volunteer for, shout out to Braven, is to fail forward.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to fail, because that's how you learn. That's how you grow. You don't learn to ride a bicycle until you've fallen off a couple of times. Yeah. Be open to growth. Know that you don't know everything, but you are not expected to know everything. And keep that in mind also for the people that you are now managing.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to thank my guests. This has been a great first podcast or webinar. And I would invite people to reach out, join in the recordings, ask questions, contact me if you have questions, and we will see you next month. Remember, management matters. Thank you so much.